up, everybody? Happy NFL Week 7. We are just getting through the weeks here. I'm Erin Dolan, joined by Eric Moody, who, as we always say at the top of the show, we are both highly caffeinated. Eric, the NBA is back as well. We're going to get into all things, but how are you doing first and foremost?
Yeah, things are going pretty good. Hey, we got fall weather that's sweeping the country right now, but most importantly, here in Dallas, we've got Dak Prescott back under center. Everybody is celebrating.
Yes, I mean, as an Eagles fan, I'm really not celebrating, but I do have some player props that I like for him today, which we will get into. But let's first look at the market movers, how some of these lines have changed throughout the week. Now, as for Tampa Bay and Carolina, we see Tampa Bay a 13-point favorite. That's one of the highest of the week. Kansas City, we saw that line move down because, as we know, Christian McCaffrey is now in San Francisco. Seattle, Los Angeles, we're seeing that total move up 2 points. And then, of course, that Detroit and Dallas game, the total moved up slightly, and Dallas now a 7-point favorite. But I'm a little surprised that total's moved up. Let's go to our NFL insider, Ed Werder, to talk more of this Lions-Cowboys game. And Ed, we know that Dak Prescott was going to play. We heard this on Thursday. But what does the team expect of him since we haven't seen him since week 1?
Well, first of all, his excitement level is such that 4 hours before kickoff, he's already here at the stadium. Dak Prescott starts for the first time since the season opening loss here to Tampa Bay. Returns to a team with a 4-2 record, which is better than the Packers and the Buccaneers, even though those teams have Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady making every start. That fractured thumb on Prescott's passing hand suffered in week 1 is the second major injury of his career, but Prescott says his grip on the football is secure, the ball feels comfortable in his hands. He might wear tape on his right thumb, but no brace is required. Described himself as being full go, says he's capable of taking snaps from under center, can drive the ball down the field or outside the numbers with accuracy and velocity. In fact, wide receiver Michael Gallup said he was convinced that Prescott was ready when he threw him a perfect go ball on a route for a touchdown during an 11-on-11 period in Thursday's practice. Gallup saying, okay, he's letting it fly, he's back. You know, Prescott returns under what seemed the best possible circumstances, playing here at home against a 1-win Lions team that ranks last in the NFL in defense, one that's allowed through 5 games the most points in Lions franchise history. They have the fewest sacks in the NFL and just 2 interceptions, so a favorable matchup for the Cowboys with Prescott returning.
And Ed, that's why one of my favorite bets for this is going to be Dak Prescott to go over 1.5 passing touchdowns, because that Detroit Lions defense is just terrible. But still, we know that Dak says he's ready to go, but how healthy is the rest of the team?
Yeah, well, you know, Prescott, wide receiver CeeDee Lamb, and tight end Dalton Schultz all cleared the injury report by the end of the week. Schultz is the only one whose role remains somewhat unclear. You know, Lamb suffered a hip injury in practice a week and a half ago, but played against the Eagles. Owner Jerry Jones said this week that Lamb is full go, ready to play without any compromise in terms of his health. Always good to know how Dr. Jerry's views things. Schultz has a PCL injury to his right knee that he aggravated a few times. Was inactive last week, a late scratch, hasn't caught a pass since week 2. And while he's available and established as one of Prescott's favorite targets, it seems that, you know, rookies Jake Ferguson and Peyton Hendershot have performed well in his absence and are the future at that position, with Schultz playing this year on the franchise tag. But Dallas seems completely healthy, not so for the Lions, who have a long injury list, including DeAndre Swift, the running back, unlikely to play today. And that's with the Lions coming off their bye week.
Yes, like you mentioned, those Lions just cannot catch a break, especially over the last couple of weeks with those injuries. But thanks so much for joining Bet this morning, Ed, and we're looking forward to your coverage. All right, Eric, let's get into this game. As everybody should know at least, Eric is a Cowboys fan. So side, total, player props, give it to me all.
You know, I have to apologize in advance because I am going to speak favorably about the Cowboys, so I apologize now, Erin. But I do like this team, this Dallas team, to cover the spread. You know, you're going up against a Lions team that leads the league in like total yards per game that they allow to opponents. And one thing about Dallas, I'm like, they're 10-1 against the spread against teams with a losing record. And I think the matchup between the Cowboys defensive front and the Lions offensive line is going to be key. So I feel like they can get consistent pressure and really force Jared Goff into making some mistakes. And so I love the Cowboys here. With Dak back, the offense is going to be operating on full cylinders. And with that, I also like Michael Gallup quite a bit in this game. I like him over receiving yards and also as a anytime touchdown scorer. One thing about Prescott and Gallup, they've already got rapport. And this is going to be a very high-scoring game, a lot of points being scored based on the total. And so I think one of those touchdown passes that Dak is going to throw today can be caught by Michael Gallup. And I'll bring it all together with this before passing it over to you, Erin, is that when you look at Gallup, prior to the season, he has 31 career games of 6 or more targets. He's averaged 69 receiving yards per game in each one. So I love Gallup this week.
And like you mentioned, that you thought this was going to be a high-scoring game. That's why I like over 49 points. And a lot of people might be a little bit confused about this, considering the Lions are riddled with injuries. But at the same time, that defense is just so bad. They're allowing opponents to score 34 points per game, which is the worst mark in the league. And then surprisingly, somehow, someway, they're able to average 28 points per game, which is the third best mark in the league. And yes, I know they were shut out by the Patriots 29-0. Then they're coming off the bye week. But I just think this might be a little bit more of a sloppier game than people expect, especially if the Dallas Cowboys are just able to put up 34 or plus points, because we know that Dak, when he's under center, can put up a ton of points, which then leads me to one of my favorite player props, which, again, this is tough for me to say because you guys know I'm an Eagles fan. But nonetheless, I do think Dak Prescott gets over 1.5 passing touchdowns. If you look back to last season, he went over this number in 11 of 16 games. I just talked about the Detroit defense. Not good. They've allowed 8 passing touchdowns to opponents so far this season. So I'm going to take the over, considering a tie at 49, and I'm also going to take Dak Prescott to go over 1.5 passing touchdowns. Is one of my favorite plays for today. Let's move on to another game. We got Kansas City versus the 49ers. That total's at 49 as well, so a little bit high, and the Chiefs are laying 1 point. What's your play in this one?
Yeah, I really like Patrick Mahomes to go over 2.5 passing touchdowns in this game. If I'm the Chiefs offensively, I'm Andy Reid. I know my defense is terrible. I just want to go out there and try to score as many points as I can. And one thing about Mahomes, he has 3 or more touchdown passes in 3 of his last 6 games. If we go back to 2018, he has 31 games with 3 or more touchdown passes. And just given how that defense is playing right now, I'm really concerned. So I could see Mahomes, throwing the football all over and getting a ton of touchdowns in this matchup, which kind of leads me when I talked about the inadequacy of the Chiefs secondary. It brings me to a prop bet that I like, and that is Deebo Samuel. I love Deebo Samuel this week. He matches up very well against all the corners on KC, but most importantly with Deebo, he has 73 or more receiving yards in 3 of his last 4 games, and so he's phenomenal. Anytime the ball's in his hands, he can score a touchdown, he can accumulate a ton of yards after the catch. So those are the 2 bets that I like for this game, Erin.
I love the way you just broke that down. I think for me personally, if I had to play this, I would lean towards the under, only because the San Francisco 49ers defense just is so good. But then again, when you think about these offenses, they can put up a ton of points at the same time. So it's a really tough one to handicap. Eric mentioned a ton of player props, which is always the way to go when you don't feel strongly on a side or a total. I'm a little bit surprised the Chiefs are only laying 1 in this matchup, because Christian McCaffrey obviously is now playing. There might be some chemistry and different things that are going on that squad today, but nonetheless, I do know the San Francisco 49ers defense is stout, so maybe we will end up seeing an under in this one. But let's also talk about this AFC South matchup. We got the Colts versus the Titans, and we're going to bring in our NFL insider, Kimberly Martin, live. We have some good questions coming up for her, but this is going to be one interesting one. All right, Kimberly, the Colts have come in having not lost a game since they faced the Titans in Week 4. What have they learned since that loss?
Okay, well, the big thing when they were watching film of that game, players talked about the stupid mistakes that cost them. I saw this Colts team in Week 3 beat the Chiefs, and they said they've grown since then, and since that loss to the Titans as well. They feel like they understand, they feel more comfortable, especially on defense with a new defensive coordinator. But they understand against the Titans, this is a team that was the top seed in the AFC last year. This is a team where the division title, as Frank Reich said, runs through Nashville. And defensive starter told me, we understand if we want to be the king, we have to beat the king. And obviously that includes King Henry, the Titans running back.
No, very good point, Kimberly. So I've got another question for you. Now, if running the ball is your brand of football, we got 2 backs that bettors are going to be keeping an eye on in this matchup, Jonathan Taylor and also Derrick Henry. Now, one thing about Derrick Henry, he's only averaging a career low, 3.9 rushing yards per attempt. So what did Derrick say about his slow start?
So I'm glad you asked, because I talked to Derrick Henry this week and I asked him, why haven't we seen the type of home run runs that we're used to seeing from you? And he said everybody on the outside is panicking, but the worst thing we can do is press or worry. You know, when you look at his stats, they've dipped. Like, he's 10th overall in rushing yards. Even Lamar Jackson has more than him. But Derrick Henry said, I'm not worried. I know that our main goal as a team has to be improving. If we focus on that, everything we want to take place will take place. So we'll see if today he breaks off a home run against these Colts.
Well, all we know is that he's confident going into this matchup, which is all you can ask for.
Yes.
So, Kimberly, thanks so much for joining Bet this morning. Looking forward to your coverage later today. All right, Eric, let's get into this one. So we currently have Tennessee laying 2.5, and that total's at 43. It's come up slightly. How are you playing this one?
You know, I really love the Colts passing game in this matchup. So I'm just excited. You know, we got Michael Pittman, we got Alec Pierce. So I love the over on receiving yards for these two players. Now, the Titans secondary, similar to the Chiefs, like, they're terrible. They're allowing the most passing yards per game. Now, Tennessee has just been torched on the perimeter all season, diving deeper into these matchups. And so whoever's covering these two receivers are going to struggle. And one thing that I looked at is that they've struggled obviously on the perimeter, but that happens to be an area of the field where Michael Pittman and Alec Pierce play quite a bit. And so this dynamic duo is really going to dominate in this game. Now, one thing about Pittman, he's had 3 games this year with 9 or more targets. He's actually averaged 109 receiving yards in each of those games. And you look at Alec Pierce, the rookie, has really stepped up over these last 4 games. He's averaged 6.7 targets and 67 receiving yards per game. So I love those two players. And if I'm looking at the Titans, I would just go with Derrick Henry here. They're going to run the ball. They're going to lean heavily on Henry. This is a guy where the Colts played against the Titans back in Week 4. He had 114 rushing yards. Over the last 2 games, he's had over 100 rushing yards. He's averaging 20 rushing attempts per game this year. So I would back Henry over rushing yards, and also Alec Pierce and also Michael Pittman over receiving yards.
I like it. I like it. So I'm going to go with Matt Ryan over 34.5 passing attempts, because as we know, the Tennessee Titans are the worst team in terms of defending the pass, which is why I am looking at that. Meanwhile, they rank 6th against the run. So I do agree with Eric with a lot of these wide receiver props. With that being said, he's hit over 34.5 attempts in 5 of 6 games. He hit over this when they faced the Tennessee Titans. And keep in mind, Jonathan Taylor did play in that game. He had 20 attempts for 42 rushing yards in that loss. So I do think they're going to end up throwing the ball a lot, at least attempting that, which is why I always look at those passing attempts instead of completions. I think Matt Ryan's still going to be slinging the ball in this matchup. All right, let's get to another game on the board. We got the Packers versus the Commanders. Probably not my favorite matchup, but we do have some plays here. The Packers laying 4.5, and the total is 41.5. Super, super low. Which way are you playing this?
Yeah, I'm with you. This isn't a matchup I'm getting overly excited about and wanting to do a backflip over. But in the midst of chaos, as Sun Tzu says, there's also opportunity. Got 2 player props for you. So I like Brian Robinson in this game. He was named the starter last week. He had, 17 rushing attempts, 60 yards, and a touchdown. And so he's someone that I could see going over rushing attempts in this game. Could see a similar workload. Diving deeper into the matchup with the Packers, I'm like, their defense ranks near the bottom of the league in run-stop win rate, an ESPN metric. And so I love Robinson to go over that line. Now, Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers hasn't had the greatest year, blah, blah, blah. We get that. But this matchup against the Commanders, I think he can have a lot of success. I'm not comfortable looking at the passing yards or passing touchdowns, but I am comfortable looking at completions. So I do like Rodgers over completions in this game. He's averaged 23 completions per game so far this year, so I think he'll exceed that number. These are the 2 plays I would have on this game.
All right, well, I, unlike you, am being a little bit more riskier here. Thinking Aaron Rodgers to go over 1.5 passing touchdowns, because he had 3 passing touchdowns against the Commanders last season. He's hit over this mark in 4 or 6 games so far this season. But yes, they've dropped games. It doesn't make sense. What's going on with the Packers? But this is the perfect matchup for them to get things right. They lost 2 straight games to New York teams. Aaron Rodgers needs to figure it out. I think they'll be able to do this against a Commanders squad that's 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 games. You got Taylor Heineke, who's under center, and to start off, the last time we've seen him last season, he was 1-6 against the spread. Okay, just not good. Things might not look good for the Commanders today. And this will finally be a get-right spot for the Packers. I would lay the 4.5, and I would also take Aaron Rodgers to go over 1.5 passing touchdowns. All right, let's do little dog, big dog. Is there a big or little dog that you are looking at on today's slate?
Yeah, there is a dog that I like, and that is the Atlanta Falcons. They're like Rodney Dangerfield, Aaron. They don't get any respect. I'm like, this
I'm
is a team against
surprised.
the spread this year. They're 6-0. I'm like, they've been an underdog 7 weeks in a row. Everyone's looking at the Bengals like Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow. They're great, and they are great offense. But I'm worried about their run defense, and here's why. You look at the Bengals. They've given up 156 rushing yards per game over the last 2 games. You look at the Falcons. You look how proficient they are in the running game. This is a team that ranks second in rushing attempts and third in rushing yards per game. And so I just believe this game will be a lot closer than people think. I'm going with the Falcons and the points. Let's go.
I'm going to have to say, Eric, I don't know if I would be able to pull the trigger on that one because I'm more so banking on the fact that the Falcons can't go 7-0 against the spread, but you never know. All right, for one of the dogs that I like, I'm just going to go with the Cleveland Browns plus 6.5. We know the Baltimore Ravens. I don't know what's going on with them. They can't figure it out in the fourth quarter. I mean, for the love of God, stop throwing the ball to other players in the end zone, Lamar Jackson. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. Also, I was thinking this line would move to +7 at this point for the Cleveland Browns, considering you got Bateman who was ruled in as well as Mark Andrews, but that just has not happened, which is a little concerning. This is always a tough matchup between these two teams. For some reason, that gut has got me thinking that the Browns will be able to cover this number of 6.5. Do I absolutely love it? Would I bet my bankroll on it? No, I wouldn't, but this is the one dog that I would look at. All right, so Eric and I both had 6.5-point dogs on this slate. All right, let's bring in another person. We got to get another person here in the mix. Let's bring in Tyler Fulghum to talk more on these games. Eric, sit tight. Now, Tyler, we just talked about this Cleveland-Baltimore game. Is there a play that you like here?
Yeah, I like the total going over, Erin, and it's kind of ticked up. It was 45. It's now 46 throughout the week, so some money is moving it towards the over. And although Cleveland is a team that likes to run the football, when you think of teams that run the football, you think of unders. They have a guy in Nick Chubb who can take any one carry to the house. He's that good. And when you have those explosive 50, 60, 70-yard touchdown runs, it immediately gives the other offense the ball and the opportunity to add. Those are short drives when you have Nick Chubb despite running the football. So with Lamar Jackson on the other side, another guy who can take the ball anytime he touches it 50, 60, 70 yards for a score. I think this game turns into a sneaky shootout. Both defenses are kind of bad. Baltimore has been dealing again with injuries a lot, especially in the back end of the secondary. Cleveland's has certainly not lived up to expectations so far this season. Mark Andrews is healthy. Rashad Bateman looks like he's going to play. Even with J.K. Dobbins out, Kenyon Drake looked good for the Baltimore offense. So, again, it's tipped up. That's 46.5 now. Like, I'm starting to get to the upper limit where I have my comfort, but I do think this is a game where both offenses, Erin, move the football effectively and score some points.
All right, I love that breakdown. Let's get to another matchup. You got Kansas City versus the 49ers. How'd you play this one?
The other way, I'm going under, and you're thinking, well, Patrick Mahomes is.
No, I
in the
agree
house.
with you.
Yeah, I know you
said
mentioned
that
that on Daily Wager that you like this, and Erin, I think we're feeling the same way about this. For me, it has to do with that San Francisco defense, which is getting healthier. Nick Bosa should be back, and he's obviously the best player on that defense. The Kansas City Chiefs offense is not as explosive as it was in years past with Tyreek Hill. Instead of having, 3 or 4 play drives that, end in the end zone, it's now 6, 7, 8 play drives that they require to get into the end zone. I know everyone's up in arms about Christian McCaffrey joining this San Francisco 49ers offense and how explosive they can be, but it's his first game. He was traded midweek. I don't expect him to be out there for, 80, 90% of the snaps. He's still going to need to be worked in. So I think San Francisco is a live dog with this game at home. And when you like a dog, you like the under a little bit. So I'm going to play under 49. That's never really comfortable, is it, Erin, when Patrick Mahomes is involved? But that's my play for this one.
I liked under 49 as well. Let's also talk about the Giants versus the Jags. And earlier on SportsCenter today, I had said this was my Erin on the side of caution because it doesn't make a lot of sense when you got the Giants who are 5-1 versus a team who are 2-4, but yet they're a dog and they're really good as a dog. So how would you play this game?
I think that's a very, very wise way to look at this game with a raised eyebrow. And I like the play on words there, Erin, on the side of caution here. I'm going to trust the market, Erin, because I think the market's trying to tell us that the Jacksonville Jaguars are the right bet. You're right. Why are they the 3-point favorite when they're a 2-4 team and the Giants are 5-1? Well, I think sometimes in football, you can't let a record indicate to you what a team really is. You have to look deeper. And we know the Giants struggle to move the football on offense. and they're really not that great on defense either. In both metrics, yards per play allowed and yards per play gained on offense and defense, the Jags rank way better than the New York Football Giants. So at some point you think this good run, this good luck maybe that the Giants are dealing with is going to come to an end. And this one caught my attention, and I think the market's trying to tell us the Jags are the right side here. Plus, Erin, I know you remember this. Like a couple weeks ago, I should say, I planted my flag that the Jags are going to win the AFC South, and I don't think they've won a game since then. So I'm almost like spite betting myself here. I have to stick with the Jags. I need them to win this game, frankly, Erin, after planting my flag.
That's the only way you can play it. The only thing I can come to or think about is the fact that the Jags defense is really good at stopping the run, so maybe they think Saquon Barkley is just not going to have a great game. And he's obviously that entire offense. But let's bring back in Eric Moody here, back into the mix, and we're going to do our Take It to the Bank. Let's take a look at last week's results. Guys, I think I was the only winner, but it's been a while. It's been a while since I hit my Take It to the Bank. So it's okay, but Cooper Rush, I mean, the guy threw 3 interceptions against my Philadelphia Eagles, who, by the way, are on a bye this week, which kind of stinks. I was ready to bet them first half because they've been crushing it. But nonetheless, let's continue with our Take It to the Bank. Tyler, start us off.
Yeah, and I know you've been getting some Twitter love from those people who say that, why do you always bet interception props, Erin?
Why are you always betting interceptions? Because they hit. Because they hit.
You nailed it with Cooper Rush. I know you've been beating on my guy, Matthew Stafford, and he keeps making you a winner because all that guy does is throw interceptions these days. My Take It to the Bank. It was my best bet on Daily Wager. I've had a rough week, so I'm going to do something that gamblers say you shouldn't do in the National Football League, and that's lay a big number on the road. So why not? I'll lay 13 with the Tampa Bay Bucks against the Carolina Panthers. Let's start with this. Tampa Bay, a good bounce-back spot. They should be embarrassed by the fact that they lost that game to the Pittsburgh Steelers last week. Tom Brady's yelling at his team, this and that. I think you get a focused Tampa Bay effort. I think they realize they need to win, and they want to embarrass a division foe that, frankly, most teams in the NFL should embarrass. They don't have Christian McCaffrey anymore. P.J. Walker's their quarterback. They traded away Robbie Anderson. They fired their coach. Carolina stinks. It appears they're actively tanking for that #1 overall pick. So, Tom Brady and the Bucs, if you can't win this game by 14 points or more, then maybe we really do have a problem. So, I'll trust Brady. I don't love Brady, but I'll trust him here, and I'll lay 13 on the road against a Panthers team that no longer has CMC.
We are at the point where the panic button might just need to be pressed for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But as Tom Brady said, he's not looking forward to retiring anytime soon. So a little concerning about that as well. But anyways, Eric, give me your Take It to the Bank.
All right, so my Take It to the Bank for this week is Austin Eckler over rushing yards. And so this matchup is just too juicy to pass up. You got the Seattle Seahawks here allowing the second most rushing yards per game this season. And you look at Eckler, I'm like, he's averaged 58 rushing yards per game this year, but he's only averaged 12.5 attempts. So let's feed Austin Eckler. Let's have him get over this prop total. But my Take It to the Bank again is Austin Eckler over rushing yards in this game.
I actually love that bet. I almost gave that out this morning on SportsCenter, so I should have called you and confirmed that this was a really good one. So I do like that one. Tyler, I also like yours as well. I'm not singling just Eric out here.
I like Eckler as well. Eckler should have a big game, especially because Palmer's out and they're dealing with some injuries. We'll see if Keenan Allen plays too. But you're right, juicy matchup for the Chargers offense.
Absolutely. All right, my best bet here for the Take It to the Bank is going to be Dak Prescott over 1.5 passing touchdowns. He hit over this mark in 11 of 16 games last season. We know he's coming off that injury, but the Detroit Lions defense is just not good. They're allowing opponents to score an average of 34 points per game. I just don't see in any situation where Dak Prescott has been sitting on the sidelines. He's probably been watching a little bit of ESPN. People like, should they keep Cooper Rush in, not put Dak back in? Obviously, we all knew Dak was going to come back. He was going to be starting over Cooper Rush. But nonetheless, just having that conversation should spark something within him. And I do think, considering that total is at 49, and I think this is going to be a high-scoring affair, I do see Dak Prescott going over 1.5 passing touchdowns as my Take It to the Bank. Now, we typically let Tyler Fulghum go at this point, but we have to get an MLB play because so many things are going on. So we got the Padres versus the Phillies in Philadelphia, could close it out, go to the World Series today. And we also got the Astros versus the Yankees. What's your best bet here for Major League Baseball?
Before I give you this, Erin, do you feel like you need to take a shower? Do you feel dirty after making a Dak Prescott prop? Take It to the Bank?
I do. It is something that I never thought I was going to do, but the Eagles aren't playing, and I actually really like this one. So, but yes, Philly will probably come after me, especially if it doesn't hit. That's going to be even a worse situation. So.
perhaps you'll like my baseball play then a little more, Erin, because it's your guy, Zach Wheeler. I'm taking him in this game over 16.5 outs recorded. Erin, you well know how awesome Wheeler has been this postseason. I saw it against my Cardinals when he dominated in the wild card round. He has continued into the division series and now the LCS. I trust Zach Wheeler in a game where the Phillies can't close it out to go out there and pitch at least 5 2/3 innings. That 17th out, that would be 5 2/3. He has gone over that threshold in every start he's made so far in this postseason. No one's touching him. He's striking out guys. And with that raucous crowd there in Philadelphia, I think he's going to feed off that energy and have another dynamite performance. So I expect a long and good outing from your boy, Zach Wheeler.
Ooh, love that. I mean, the city of Philadelphia needs this because the Sixers are 0-3. We got a bye week for the Eagles, so this is something that we need for today. But Tyler, thanks so much for joining Bet this morning. Enjoy watching the games today in Vegas.
Will do. You guys have a great rest of the show.
Thank you. All right, Eric. Let's switch it over to one of our favorite sports, NBA. It is back. There are so many things we could talk about, and we're just getting our feet wet, okay? We're in the first week. We need a couple weeks under our belt to kind of get some of these stats going. But let's talk about one of your favorite plays for today.
Yeah, for me, I look at the spread like on the Hornets game against the Hawks, and I'm just like blown away. I'm like, it's outrageous. thinking about that. And so I seriously, that was my expression. But I do like the Hornets in this game. I just think even without LaMelo Ball, I think they're still scoring points. They actually rank third in 3-point percentage, fifth in field goal percentage. And one thing about the Hornets, I'm like in their last 22 road games, I'm like, they've gone 16-5-1 against the spread, and so I do like them in this game. I would pick the Hornets and take the points. I think they'll have more success than people think.
All right, I like that one. I'm going to go with a player prop here. Damian Lillard over 24.5 points against the Lakers. The Lakers they're so bad. They're just so bad. I mean, they cannot score, but that doesn't even impact this. What impacts this is that defense, and I just don't think that they're going to be able to stop a player like Damian Lillard. He's averaged 28 points against the Lakers in his career, and we just saw last game against the Suns, he dropped 41 points. Now, I know he needed overtime for that, and if you look back to game one, they've only played 2 games. He only scored 20 points, but keep in mind, he went 1 for 8 from beyond the arc. I think he'll be better in this one, see some positive regression, and be able to get over this number of 24.5, considering the Lakers defense is just overall, it's just not that good. And you know who's good? Dame is very good. That guy can score like crazy. So I do like him over 24.5 points. Eric, is this one of those bets that you would consider?
Absolutely. I was smiling ear to ear as you were giving that breakdown, Erin. And I even like Lillard, like if you're looking at points, like and assists, because you hit the head of the nail. This Lakers team, if you look at point guards, I mean, they're allowing like the 7th most points per game to the position. And I think Lillard looks great with the supporting cast that he has, that the Trailblazers surrounded him with. And I'll leave you with this statistical nugget. So he was able to make history in their previous game. And so since 2012, Lillard is one of 5 players with 200 games underneath their belt with 230 or more point games. And so one thing like with Lillard that I like, he's in great company there. He's got James Harden, LeBron James, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant. So that's really good company to be in, to have that number of 30-point or more games under his belt. So I love that bet.
I agree. Yes. No, I'm really liking that one for today. And also, I know as we're wrapping up the show, this wasn't something we were planning on talking about, but I always think it's important to talk about NBA MVP odds. We still got Luka as the favorite, plus 375 right now in Caesars Sportsbook. Then you got Giannis, Jason Tatum, Joel Embiid, Ja Morant, Nikola Jokic. I got to say, Giannis has been looking pretty good, Eric. He really has. Is there anybody in this market that you're really loving or something you consider betting? I know Zion Williamson has been a really popular one as well.
Yeah, no, I do like Giannis. He's just, I guess he's a thing of beauty to watch whenever he's like in transition, whether he's, scoring points or dishing the ball. So I do like him quite a bit. But I'm actually going to go with the favorite here. I really like Luka this year with the supporting cast that they have. Love, Wood there. That's going to be huge for his value. So I would actually bet on the favorite in this scenario.
Okay, yeah. And I would like to say that when you're betting into the MVP odds, always keep in mind that in the last 25 seasons, 23 of the MVP winners have been from a number 1 or number 2 seed in the conference. And I feel like the West in some shape, it's a really tough, obviously, conference, but at the same time, it feels really open right now. Yeah. So I do like that. But nonetheless, we are wrapping up Bet. Thank you so much for tuning in today to Eric. Moody and I always point the wrong way. This way. We're going this way. Have a good day and good luck with your bets.
Bye.